You can buy all the bins, follow all the tips, and even hire a professional organizer to help you get organized. But why do you still feel like you're failing at organization? Because we're starting in the wrong place. Today, I am going to share with you why organizing doesn't start with your stuff, but actually starts with your mindset. I'm Elyse Metzger, and welcome to Tame the Chaos. We think organizing is about stuff. It's really about what's going on in your head. And we're trying to organize our way out of chaos without addressing why we feel chaotic in the first place. We're setting expectations based on what we see online, maybe what our mother in law's house looks like or what our mom's house looks like. It's what we think we should be able to maintain, but it's not really working for our life. Looking at our entire home and trying to figure out a plan to organize it is really overwhelming. We can't create a plan if we don't have a goal, and we can't come up with a goal if we don't know why we're so frustrated in the space in the first place. So, when we start to just organize our stuff without thinking about how we use the space and what we want for the space, what our goals are, then it's not going to work out. It's like working backwards. It's like we're on a hamster wheel that just keeps going, 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 and doesn't stop. After working with many, many clients, the ones who were successful at organizing weren't necessarily the ones that had the best systems. These clients succeeded with organization because they were the ones who shifted how they thought about their space and themselves. I'm going to give you a really, really personal example of when we moved into a home. Me and my son and husband and dog moved into a home planning to remodel it. We put probably about a third of our things into storage because we had the plans of remodeling the home and then getting settled and moving in. So we moved into the home with like all of our essentials. Unessentials were in storage. And we didn't really get settled. We knew that we had boxes, some pieces of furniture in the storage. We just weren't getting settled in our home. Our thought was to finish the remodel, get the house done, and then move everything in from storage. Move everything from storage into the house, the remodeled house, and then we'd be done. So the plan obviously did not work out. And that realization, unfortunately, didn't come until like a year and a half after living in the home. We were living in our fixer-upper home for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, before we actually ended up selling it. So we never moved fully into the house. We did end up taking everything from storage and putting it in our garage. So we had like packed boxes in the garage. But basically, for almost 2 years, we lived in that house unsettled, still unpacked boxes in the garage. And this was like a huge realization. So after we sold the house, moved, realized that it wasn't going to happen, we left the house. And this is when I realized that I was living in a constant state of stress in my home because we weren't settled. We weren't living in our reality. We were living in the future. I mean, this was really like a year and a half, fully year and a half, 2 years. So obviously, I was like really, really understandably frustrated with myself because that was a really long time to live like that. And I was just living, me and my family were living in stress, unsettled. Our home was not our home. We were living in the future. And that was really not a good experience. But more on that later. I will talk about that in future episodes. But I can tell you, even as a professional organizer who does this for a living, I make mistakes and sometimes I'm not in the right mindset. And it was a really big lesson to me. And this is why I'm sharing it with you. So Another example is a client I have. She has a home and her two children they're in their 20s, moved out, and she was wanting to organize her house. We started with the garage, the upstairs, the kitchen. We did every space in the house, but something that I noticed with her, she was really living in a different season of her life. We kept shifting, like shuffling things around upstairs in the different rooms, the kids' items in the garage. And she was organizing for her past life or her past seasons of life. Her kids were moved out. They came to visit, but they were really only there only 10% of the time. So she wasn't thinking for herself about living with her and her husband in that house. But you know what? She had to figure that out on her own. We were there as support, obviously, but she did realize, like, okay, well, they're out of the house, they have their own homes. They can take their stuff, or we can do something else with the things. This was her space to organize. And once she realized that she was living in a different season of her life, then things got easier and she could really, really move forward with organizing how she lived at that moment and that season of her life. Another example is something that probably a lot of us have done. And when you see somebody's page or a picture, it can anything picture of a beautiful pantry and everything's decanted. There's clear bins, they're all labeled, everything fits perfectly on the shelf or everything fits perfectly in these bins. It's so pretty. So we go out and we buy all of these bins and we have all of these bins in our pantry. The problem is that those particular bins may not be the best fit for your pantry. You may have way more snacks, way more pastas, way more whatever that need to fit into those bins. And maybe, and your space is probably most likely better without the bins. And you maybe need like one or two to hold some loose things, but maybe something with just labeling certain zones, creating little zones in your pantry and labeling the actual shelf would be just as good as the bins. So it's something we can all fall into this trap. It's really easy to do. What we see, we kind of just want to copy, especially in organizing. You just don't really know. And our spaces are really specific to us. It's based on how we live and the actual space itself and how it's set up. So it's a common trap to fall into, and it is what it is. So you have to start where you are, not where you think you should be or where you were. Remember to be easy on yourself. Think progress over perfection. Taking action, even if it's small, is better than doing nothing at all. So hit follow so you don't miss the next episode. If this resonated with you and you think a friend should hear, share it with them. I'll see you next time.